Okay, another question for the class was how to create some custom shapes and like some arrows specifically for your instructional two-page spread. So what you can do here is you go down and there's a little custom shape tool here. Sometimes it looks like Patrick of SpongeBob if you're familiar. Some basic shapes right here, but also some custom shapes. So if I want a basic shape, this is going to be based upon the colors here that I've already gotten picked, or I'm sorry, up here. So if I want it to be red or if I want it to be some other color, and I've got a lot of different colors here, but let's say orange. And then if I want it to be a specific size, I click one time and I get a dialog box come here that if I want it to be 100 pixels by 100 pixels or whatever, or I can just click and drag and I make that shape. I think to do something like that without further explanation, I think probably the easier way to do that is just do it like we showed before, is draw a box and then fill it with whatever color you happen to be wanting. So Alt backspace, or you can use the paint bucket tool. This is actually a vector shape. It's probably more more useful, and you can modify a little bit more, but it's kind of outside the scope of what we're doing at the moment. But there are some other shapes in here, some custom shape tools, that if you come up here now you can see that there's a menu, and I can go and there's a variety of different kinds of shapes here. Now there's some maybe a little bit different than what you have, and to get to that is you click on this little gear and you have lots of different kind of things. If you want just animals, you can append it. Appending means you're just going to add them on there, and I think I've already got it to all. Or you just hit OK, and it's going to get rid of all the rest of them and only show you the animals. So there's just the animal ones. Or I can just go to all, and I'm going to append. I'm just going to add them all, and then I've got arrows and snowflakes and all sorts of things that you can just kind of look through. So this works the same kind of way. Like if we want to have an arrow, like you were turning the page or folding one for like a paper airplane, you can click and drag and you can pull it out and distort it. Probably the best way to do it is hold the shift key down, and it constrains it to its original proportions. So I get it this big, but let's say that I want it flipped now. I can go to edit and transform path, and I can flip horizontal. So it flips it over that way, or I can go to edit, transform path, flip vertically, and I can manipulate it that way, or I can just hit Control T, or if you want just the free transform path, there's the shortcut if you've forgotten. Control T, oops, Control T, and then I can rotate it to any angle that I'd like. So if I wanted to pull this over here and say, hey, it was that window or whatever. Now all of these shapes also have layer styles associated with them, just like a picture does. So I don't know that we really talked about that, but if I double click out here in the blue area, not where the words and not on the thumbnail, but out here, you get another menu, and you can put like a stroke around it. So I can increase the stroke. I could change the stroke color to whatever I might want. I could change, like the size. I can also put a drop shadow on. And to get to these other menus, so when I just click on something, then it might do it, but you can't really see it. To get to this other menu specific to whatever that topic was, you have to click on it, actually the word. So Photoshop kind of makes that a little bit weird, where you can click on the arrow or the checkbox, but nothing seems to happen. But you need to click on the words, and then you get this attribute specific menu. So I can increase the depth or the size, and in this case it's a bevel and emboss. If I want to drop shadow, I click on the word drop shadow, and I can increase the distance of this drop shadow. I can change the size, make it a little softer, so you can see. Let me pull that out a little bit so you can see it, what's going on. And the nice thing about this is it's completely editable afterwards. So I go and click on the stroke in the layers palette, and it brings up that stroke menu, and I can say, well, I'd rather have it to be blue, or I want the drop shadow to be a little bit deeper or a little bit more shallow or whatever. So I can modify that. So that's kind of a way to add a little bit of more spice to your pictures, is doing that. Now I can do that with an image as well. I've got this one feathered from another video. Let's say if I add and place another one, zoom back out and we'll make that smaller. Now if I double click out here in the blue area again, I bring up that layer styles palette, zoom in a little bit so you can see, and I can put a stroke on that picture, and I can click on the word stroke, and I can make that bigger or smaller. I can click on the drop shadow and make a drop shadow. Kind of gives you a little bit of depth in your picture. And one other little tricky thing, if you want to, if you love this style right here on like the arrow, and you want to copy it over here, you would probably have to go, normally you would have to go and look at the numbers and then transfer those numbers to this layer. But there's another way of doing that, is I can right click on this layer. This is my arrow layer. Right click on it, because right click is always more options, left click is always select. And I can copy the layer style, and then I can right click on my picture layer, and then I can paste layer style. And so that's going to be the exact same attributes, same shadow, same stroke, and that way we have that repetition as well, and it also has a little bevel and emboss. It's not going to work as well on a feathered picture, and I'll just do that real quick to show you. Although you can do it, so it's still a little fuzzier edge, but now we have repetition. So you'll just have to explore these custom shapes in here, and if you really want to do things and you want to modify these shapes, you'll have to just find some other YouTube videos, but it's really outside the scope of what we need to do for this project. Hopefully that's helpful.